What's up, fanboys and fangirls? Welcome to another Review Point podcast coming to you from fanboysanonymous.com. WandaVision is over for at least season 1. I don't know if there's going to be season 2, so maybe the series, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see, I guess, in due time. So we're going to break down the episodes here, all 9 of them, and talk about our overall thoughts on the series or season or whatever as a whole. I'm Tony Mango. Robert D. Felice is with me.
Who's been messing with everything? It's been fanboys all along. Ah,
Uh, I I don't know where we're gonna go with this. Like we don't have a set. Like here's the structure we're gonna go. So I guess be patient with us, kind of bouncing around different topics. We're not gonna go like episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. We're just gonna go like, hey, Monica, let's talk about her and like that kind of a thing. So keep in mind throughout this whole podcast, we want to know what you guys have to say as well. Drop the comments in the comment section below on YouTube in particular. Send us a tweet at Fanboys Anon or post something on the Facebook page, facebook.com/fanboysanonymous. Put something on the page on fanboysanonymous.com. Tweet at us in particular, Tony Mango and Dude Felice. And kind of keep the discussion going from whatever we say here. Generally speaking, you're a thumbs up on this, right?
I am. I really thought that this was a fun television series. I think it could have very easily been like one movie in the MCU, but I like it as a series. I thought the sitcom stuff was cute. I know we're gonna disagree on that completely, but I enjoyed that. I don't know, I enjoyed the whole show. It was just nice appointment viewing, and I think that the world needs more of that.
I, generally speaking, think that this was a very drawn out, decent one shot that dropped the ball. Like, well, I mean, we're gonna dive deeper into some of these, but just like surface level, you're totally right when you said this could have been one movie. It's 9 episodes long. It's not full 9, like 50-minute episodes or anything. It's just not like it's, you know, uh, the size of an entire series. But I don't think that this worked as a TV show. I think that this would have been a lot better if it would have been 1 2-hour and 20-minute movie.
So one of the things I noticed was the very early episodes were very quick. And sometimes, even though it looked like there was a whole chunk left, it's just because the credits were so long.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
like that threw me off a bit in the beginning. But I'm curious because I had asked you early on what you thought about it, and you were not a fan on episode 1. Did you end up liking it more than you did when you first started watching?
Yeah, so for anybody who didn't check out the was it bonus features that we did, or did we
It
do it?
was a bonus feature. It was
It
a
was okay.
Faircast.
So it's the Patreon exclusive thing, which if you don't know, by the way, everybody, we do Patreon exclusive episodes once in a while here and there. So if you want to listen to those, you got to be a part of the bonus features tier on Patreon. And then you could have listened to our first impressions kind of breakdown of the first 2 episodes or so. Yeah, I didn't like it for a couple different reasons. One of them being I am not at all a fan of I Love Lucy and Bewitched and Dick Van Dyke Show and everything. Like that era to me is awful, and it extends even past these shows
What's
too.
awful about that era?
So I hate old timey almost everything. And I'm not even exaggerating. Somebody would be like, "Oh, come on, you're no." I pretty much hate everything old timey. Like, I think that, for instance, Emma Caulfield plays Dottie in this, and when you see Dottie, and she's all like, for the children and whatever, I'm like, oh man, Emma Caulfield is so pretty. It's a shame she's got that hairstyle. And like the the music during that time frame, the Yakety Yak song, I hate it. Uh, the movies from back then, like literally any show that my grandmother would watch, I think it's just god awful. like Green Acres. Da 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 ba ba. Times Square and all this. It's like, oh god, I fucking hate it. Uh, I hate the way that they used to talk in movies. Especially if it's like a mobster thing. Good lord, then it's the whole like, yeah, "Nah, see, I'm gonna stick one up for you," like, and you get the other people that are the actors. They didn't seem like they were real people. It was always like, "Well, let me tell you something here, Buster." You know? I don't like that at all. I don't like the comedy. I don't dig the old school like.
You told me earlier you don't even like the Three Stooges. You'll hear that in a
No,
month.
I don't like the Three Stooges. I don't like the the wife stays at home and cooks dinner for the guy who just came from the office, and he reads the newspaper in the morning with his glass of orange juice, and their little kid's got a bowl cut. Leave it to Beaver kind of bullshit. I hate it. I hate all of it. And
So,
I do that
yeah,
for every era too. Like for anybody who goes, "Oh, okay, well, you're more of a whatever guy." I think that the '60s is dumb. I think that the '70s, like we're doing our James Bond film breakdown of A Review to a Kill, and we earlier today, which this is March 9th, we recorded our thing for The Spy Who Loved Me, which you're gonna hear
in a month.
April 2nd or so.
Second. Yeah.
One of the things I complained about with that is the disco music, because I'm like, God, this is awful. Like, it's just, I hate all of it. So when they go in any movie or in any TV show, for the most part, if one of the hooks is, wouldn't it be neat if we were also in a different time period? I'm like, no, not really. And that tends to be a major disconnect with me. Like those X-Men films, when they're like, we're going to go back in time and we're going to do the First Class. I'm like, oh, cool. They're like, well, it'll be all the '60s. Isn't that neat? I'm like, well, I mean, it has to be the '60s because the '90s were when they started. But that doesn't mean that that's more neat. It's just following continuity. And then people are like, oh, but see, like Mystique's going to be wearing this kind of an outfit. I'm like, yeah. And then they go, oh, the next one's the '70s. And I'm like, why? The next one's the '80s. They're going to reference records. Okay. Am I supposed to pop? Like, yeah. Wrestling term. There you go.
Yeah, there you do.
Before we recorded this, we're talking about how we use wrestling terms in way too many things in real life. Pop means like get excited, you know.
So it's if you listen to our review of Wonder Woman 1984, you'll know that I think doing things in an era just for the sake of them is stupid. But I think this show and the way it progressed did it well enough that I found it charming.
I did eventually appreciate that they bothered to say why, and that it was that and spoilers, by the way, for anybody. If before we get into like the specifics about stuff, we're gonna spoil everything as if you've seen this whole show. So keep that in mind. I do like that they eventually had it where her escape from this war-torn Sokovia was to watch these old sitcoms, and somehow Malcolm in the Middle, despite the fact that that wasn't on DVD at the time. But
Shush.
yeah, yeah. But like that, okay, she's using that as like her regression, and that's her safe zone. So I'm like, okay, I like that. But that's where I go into, if this was a 2.5 hour movie, they would have trimmed the other parts down and I would have liked it better. Because then we wouldn't have had 60 minutes worth of an old sitcom. Because that second episode in particular, it's just a sitcom episode. The one with the whole the magic act,
Yeah.
If you boil that down to what elements actually progress the story, it's maybe like 6 minutes. Maybe. The rest of it's just wacky little hijinks. And I'm not into that. I'm not into I gotta make a dinner for the boss because he's whatever. I'm into stop it. Stop it. That section and the Vision help him. Like, so if they would have started that out and made that a little bit quicker and gotten more to when you introduce like Jimmy and Hayward and that kind of stuff, it got better to me. And by the time you got to the end of the show, I'm like, oh crap, they're not going to really do anything other than just wrap this up. Oh, that's disappointing. You know,
So, just a side note, I can't see Kitty from that '70s show without thinking of Kitty from that '70s show,
she's
and
perpetually that forever. Yeah.
yeah, like, that threw me off a lot.
Same with Red.
Yeah,
Like he's either Red or he's Clarence Boddicker. That's it. You're either
and
the dude
I
from
can't even think of
RoboCop
his
or you're Eric Foreman's dad.
okay. Um, there's a few other people in, sitcoms and shows like that, like, the father on Everybody Loves Raymond. If he's not Young Frankenstein,
Yep.
yeah, it just is.
At most, he's the other guy at the toy business thing in the Santa Claus. They get typecast for those kind of things, and
And kudos to the other Olsen for not. Like, Elizabeth Olsen is fucking awesome.
yeah, she's like top tier when it comes to that whole thing. I loved the meme that was going around of when she was all like sunken in and like kind of draining all of her energy, and people are like, "Oh, I see the resemblance now." It's like, that's pretty mean.
Oh, oh, come on. They entertained you. Come on.
Don't do that to Michelle.
Everywhere you
uh, so I don't know. I guess we'll bounce around here and there. You guys know the plot. You're not listening to this without knowing the plot. You've probably watched the whole season to begin with, so we don't need to break that down. But the one of the criticisms that is a major criticism most people have, and it's one that I jump on board with too, is I don't like it when a show sets itself up for failure with not knowing its audience. And that applies in a couple different ways, but one of them is how many movies have they done by now? 20 something? How many other TV shows have they been a part of, even though some of them aren't canon and whatever now, especially now with the Darkhold. They know the MCU fans. Kevin Feige knows what we're like. That's why whenever he's cutting interviews, I was going to say cutting promos, uh, got the wrestling mindset going on right now. Whenever
oh
he's
shit.
giving an interview, and people are like, "Can you tell us about such and such?" And he'll be like, "Well, anything can happen, and I'm not going to promise anything, but you'll see. We've got some stuff working, whatever." He knows not to say things like, "Yep, I guarantee you, Silver Surfer's popping up tomorrow," or like, "Well, if you're a real big fan of Isaiah Bradley, you better watch Winter Soldier and Falcon and Winter Soldier," or something like. Sure, he'll name drop some people once in a while and say things like, "I'm interested in telling stories about these type of characters, and we're going to get around to a lot of things. We might do it differently, whatever." But I feel like this show, they forgot that their fans are super duper obsessed. And there were so many parts of this show that just didn't amount to anything. Some of them were little tiny Easter eggs, like the Grim Reaper's helmet. Like, well, why did you put the Grim Reaper's helmet in there? Oh, because wouldn't that be funny if you saw that? Well, why? You
I
know?
enjoyed the commercials. I thought the commercials were, nice little Easter eggs. And hey, look at this.
Yeah, I like the commercials. I think it would have been a little bit better if they would have really led somewhere. But
Right.
I mean, they were trying to be more poetic about it. Um, but to me, it's more of a problem with like, you don't set up something like the aerospace engineer and have Tiana Paris. I forget the words she had specifically said, but she had said something along the lines of, "I'm really excited for how people are going to react to that reveal." And the reveal's like, it's this some woman. And you're like, "Well, then what? Why are you excited about that?" That would be like saying, "I've been cast in Batman Begins, and I'm going to play this really important character. I'm this little boy that talks to Batman at some point and gets a gadget from him." And people are like, "You're Dick Grayson?" And he's like, "No, I'm little blonde haired boy." Isn't that great?
That
And then you go,
well,
no, who the fuck's the little blonde haired boy? Like, you know what I mean? That people do that all the time with different movies, and normally it's just the fans that are doing that, and then that's not the fault of the people. You know, if you ever see like a casting sheet for any of these types of movies, it'll be like we're casting a 30 to 40-year-old male, uh preferably white, open to other ethnicities, and people will be like, Dr. Doom, it's Dr. Doom. And you're like, No, that's not what they're saying. Relax. But then when you get Paul Bettany going, I'm really excited about this thing. I worked with this actor I've always wanted to work with. And then you find out he's just trolling everybody and he's working with himself. And the uh, aerospace engineer, everybody starts
you
going
would do
nuts.
that. Hold on, you would do stoked to work with yourself.
See, I would do the Paul Bettany one, but I wouldn't do it after I would notice that all these other people are doing these other things too, because they're setting up like, oh, what's the Grim Reaper thing up for? What are the what's up with the rabbit? What's Senior Scratchy? Who's Ralph? What's going on with Pietro? Who's the aerospace engineer? Is that Reed Richards? Who's Jimmy Woo's uh, witness protection person? And then the answers by the end of the series are the rabbit's just a rabbit, Pietro's just a guy, and his name is Ralph Bohner.
Yeah.
Paul Bettany's just working with himself. The aerospace engineer is just a woman. She's just somebody, Agent Rodriguez or whatever. There's no Doctor Strange cameo. Oh, that was another thing too. I think it was Elizabeth Olsen was like, yeah, there's like a big cameo that pops up and it's the same as like that Luke Skywalker one from The Mandalorian. And what was that supposed to be? The scroll, I
I
guess?
think I think that they had said that there was a like it was supposed to be strange, but there was a reason it just couldn't be.
Any of that to me, that's where you get into you made a bunch of promises and you didn't live up to it. Now you've made your bed, now you got to sleep in it, kind of. Anybody like the director, I think it was, had said before the last episode, people are going to be disappointed. You shouldn't have to say that about your product.
Although I wish more people were in tune enough to say that about their product.
Oh yeah, it's much better to say that than to say, no, 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 we gave you exactly what you would want and you're just wrong. At
Sure.
least they're acknowledging like, hey, we kind of teased you and you fell for it, and now we feel bad because now you got your hopes up and it's not going to be that good. Sorry. Like,
Yeah, I'll take the openness of saying that I'll be disappointed though.
like, I could see a number of scenarios here that I felt underwhelmed about. Besides the ones that I just mentioned too, because those are definitely some of them. But like director Tyler Hayward, he's not a character in the comics that I'm aware of. So everybody naturally is going, is he another character in disguise? Is he secretly Loki? Is it going to lead into the series? Is he actually like, a life model decoy? Or is he some kind of, Nando V Movies have put out something about, is he Red Skull? And I'm like, I don't think that he's Red Skull. But like, if you create a character out of nothing, there's a chance based off of the way that the history of the MCU has gone. A lot of characters aren't the actual character names. And you've gotten, Agnes. Everybody immediately was like, oh, she's Agatha Harkness. And
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, yeah, she's Agatha Harkness. And then you see Monica Rambeau and she's not Gabrielle, I think her name was, or something. I forget.
Ah.
I think it started with a G. Giovanna or Gabrielle or something. But
Jeez, it's gonna drive me nuts.
it probably
Hold
is. Wikipedia doesn't say it. No. Geraldine.
There we go. Thank you. I was
Something
gonna
like that.
that.
But that's disappointing. It's disappointing when the big bad of the whole thing could have been a lot of other characters. Like Hayward could have been Mephisto. That would have been pretty awesome. And instead he's just generic government guy. You're like, damn. Now, they didn't promise that he would be anything more than that, so we're just getting our hopes up. But wouldn't you know by now, after doing 10 plus years worth of this series, that if you were one of your main villains is generic government guy that we just created for the show, couldn't you at least have made him one of the generic government guys from the comics? You know?
Yeah, I didn't really like Hayward. I didn't like the Jesus Christ. I didn't like the twist that he was actually like, evil all
You gotta
along.
say heel
And
turn.
I almost said I didn't like the swerve that he was actually a heel, and I just like,
Forgive us for our wrestling talk, everybody.
yeah, like I apologize, but that's just what I know. Yeah, I really didn't like that. I didn't like that. You know, because it's just aha, you think we're the good guys, and we don't care about these mutants, these freaks, and it's like, eh, I've seen it.
What a stark change, too, where he goes from, I don't know if you had the same impression I had, but when they first introduced him, you're like, all right, he's bad. Like,
Yeah.
but then he gets to the point where he's just like, I'm just gonna shoot little kids. Like, just gonna shoot Tommy and Billy. Shoot him right in the face. You're like, all right, you went from a misguided government stooge type of guy to a child murderer.
I like
Okay.
I like Tommy and Billy, by the way. Tommy and Billy were fun.
I like him. I liked Tommy better. All right, wait, which one's the speedster one?
I think it was
That's Billy, I
fuck.
think.
I think it was Billy.
I liked the non
The not you like
speedster
the one
one.
who had the telepathy and
Yeah,
stuff.
the Wanda one.
Yeah, the Wanda one, not the Quicksilver one.
Whichever one grows up to be Wiccan instead of Speed. Which what dumb name. Oh, what's your code name? Speed. What do you do? Speed. Well, not that he does speed. The kid's like, on drugs or something. Like, that's not where we're going. Uh, but like, I like them. Like, they introduce them in there, and they're fun little characters.
Yeah, they were fun. Vision's a blast.
Vision was
Like,
maybe my favorite part of the whole thing.
he's so much fun.
You seen those memes going around about the what is swag?
No.
Like, people are taking the shot of him with, or he just has his hand on his like chest, and he's like, like, oh, Wanda, like, whatever, and people are like putting like a gold chain and like a hat on
Yeah,
him
okay,
and
yeah,
stuff,
I did
and
see one where he looks like the rock meme.
right, yeah, and they're like, what is
They're
swag other than like style persevering or something?
That ship of Theseus thing was fantastic.
I loved that. That was one of my favorite parts of this whole entire series. For anybody who's losing context of this, it's when which for that too, I love that they did the white vision, because I've been waiting for white vision to be a thing. I thought that when Thanos pulled the Mind Stone out and he went kind of grayish, I was like, oh, okay, that's how they're gonna do white vision then. They're just gonna, Shuri is gonna have him backed up, and by the time we get to Endgame, he's gonna be white vision instead, and whatever. And they did it this way instead, and they had Vision against White Vision, whatever. And I like that it wasn't just, smashy smashy. They bring up the whole ship of Theseus and whatever, and have a philosophical debate about it. That's Vision right there. That's awesome.
Yeah, and there was, of course, the uh the line about grief that everybody really clung to. The whole "what is grief if not love persevering?"
Yeah, that's like the standout quote from this.
Yeah, and it was really good. Like it was a show that made you think, and also kind of gave you your superpower fill, gave you your sitcom fill if you're into that, and yeah, like it's not gonna be my favorite thing ever from Marvel, but it was a nice Friday treat. Is basically what I'm gonna keep coming back to.
Well, that's something that I didn't like either, and it seems like that's going to be a thing going forward.
The
Mandalorian
f-
fucked us. they they did this whole we're going to release one episode a week type of thing, and then people went, "Oh, let's do that from now
I hate
on."
it. I hate
And
it.
I think I would have liked this better if I would have been able to binge it, because then I wouldn't have waited a whole week each particular time and spent 7 weeks or so dealing with like okay, it's Friday, I'm gonna watch this episode, and then when I watch it, it's 75% of it is making fun of Malcolm in the Middle, which I didn't like. I never was a fan of Malcolm in the Middle.
I love the
Um,
theme song.
Life is unfair. That was the right song, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm like, wait a minute, am I even thinking of a different song here? Just, uh, gonna pull out some Perfect Strangers or something. Family Matters, great song too, but like, after watching that kind of, you get those jokes in those episodes, and then they go, here's the little tease to move the next episode on, and then I gotta wait another week. I think if I would have been able to binge it, I would have liked that better.
Yeah, but I feel like that's one of those complaints that's very just like we're, we're spoiled, you know?
Well, that's where I get into the movie thing, because when you watch a movie, you watch the whole thing.
Fair.
So if this would have been condensed into one movie, it would have been one shot at the theater.
I'm proud of you for not saying merge.
What did I say instead? I just naturally thought that I said it merge.
Condensed.
Condensed. There you go. I want to merge everything. Merging's just, it's good. Makes so much sense. And if you would have merged a couple of these episodes, I think it would have been better. Like,
They could have merged the first two, and I think that's why they released the first two in one day.
usually my issue with TV shows that are like this, like, not necessarily that they have to be like a sitcom type of thing where the episodes are all standalone, but if it's some kind of a sequential story, more often than not, I'll look back on the season and I'll think you could have trimmed a bunch of episodes. Shows like The
Right.
Flash in particular, they're like 22 episodes, and you're like, you had enough content for 8. And then you had a side story that took up 5 full episodes, and then you had a lot of people just arguing for the sake of filling up the episode, and CW shows are really bad at that. But like the side plots, or the things that lead to things that lead to things just for the sake of making it a more winding maze, that gets under my skin. Like, Wanda sees the helicopter. There's probably a good couple of minutes dedicated to just like, ooh, what's with the helicopter? And it's like, it was a drone. And you're like, okay, that would have been about 45 seconds in a movie. You know?
I don't know, because they end up going back to it once, you know, Monica is out of Westview, and then you're kind of getting acclimated with, okay, how did all this actually happen? That's when I thought the show started getting better.
Once they introduced those characters on the outside, I liked it a lot better. But unfortunately, one of them is Darcy. I
Do you
don't
not
like
hold
I
on?
don't like Darcy.
Do you not like her, or do you not like the actress, or do you not
Well,
do?
I'll say it like this. I definitely don't like the Darcy Lewis character. But I
Uh,
also haven't seen Kat Dennings in anything that I've liked her in. And I think the thing that I've liked her the most in is Two Broke Girls. But I even stopped watching that show because it was just like,
yep,
they're kind of annoying.
yep. So, Two Broke Girls was appointment viewing. I believe it was Thursday night viewing, and it was good for a couple seasons.
For like the
And
first
then one
two, I
day,
think I had seen.
yep. And then one day by season 3, I just said, "All right, I think I'm out." Like, and that's kind of my experience with Two Broke Girls as well. I did like her in Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist.
Never seen it.
I think she just looks good, quite frankly.
Oh, she's attractive, that's for sure.
And
I hate her voice with like that kind of like, have fun in prison. That kind of thing. Like,
I think like she's got an iconic voice, and she'll be typecast for the majority of her life. I think she'll be the kind of snarky
mhm.
girl who's
She
kind
does
of
a great job of that. That, like, she has an annoying voice for that type of role, so she does it well. But then it's like, oh, damn, you're annoying. Like,
like the CW is going to do a live action Powerpuff Girls. for whatever fucking reason. I don't know.
Hmm.
But like if they were gonna be adults, she could totally play adult Buttercup.
No idea what Buttercup is. I've never seen the show.
Okay, well that's fair. If you're out there and you understood what I just said, let me know
Drop
in
a
the
comment.
comments.
Yeah, like if they were to say to me heading into this show, okay, we want to kind of introduce these sort of characters, who can we pull in? Saying that they were going to bring in Jimmy Woo, I'm all for. Randall Park is great. Jimmy Woo is a character that I like. I really loved in particular that like he's mastered the sleight of hand magic tricks because he's had 5 years to do that from Ant-Man. So that's like I love that little bit. And I love when the movies do this kind of thing, like forget the character's name, but how they incorporated the team of people with Mysterio in Spider-Man Far From Home, where it's not just okay, Quentin Beck is this guy and he did this thing. It's like, no, Quentin Beck is a guy who worked on Barf. You're like, oh, okay, that's kind of neat. And they go, oh, well, he also is teaming with this person from that part of the movie and this person for that one, including the guy who gets yelled at from Obadiah Stane. You know, Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps. Box of scraps guy. I'm like, dude, that's box of scraps guy. Kind of. So I love when they do that in these kind of things, and I do really appreciate that they brought Darcy in because she should be a part of something like Sword. She's been a part of Thor. Like, she's
Right.
worked on these kind of projects. Like, she should be a valuable asset. But then I'm like, oh man, I would have rather have had that be Eric Selvig. You know?
Yeah, I get it. I think the people that they brought in specifically, the actors know the television show format because Randall Park's been in a lot of different shows, and we just mentioned Kat Dennings who's done sitcom stuff. So I think they fit the show.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think those parts could have also gone to other people within the MCU.
And that's probably another thing too, is like, well, why would we go with like Selvig? We've already had him in a bunch of movies. Let's get her in there we haven't seen her in a while. I don't like dislike that. It's just a matter of that's like the personal preference nitpicking that I can do as opposed to a big problem of something like why would you set up Evan Peters to be Pietro where everybody is going to start going, does that mean X-Men is crossed over? Is it a dimensional thing? Like, is what? And then they go, nope, his name's Boner. Haha, gotcha. And you're like,
Boner.
really? Come on. You
Nice.
clearly named him Ralph Boner because you thought it'd be funny to get one over on the audience, but you can't lie a bunch of times and play jokes on the audience and then go, well, why are they upset? It's like, well, you made them feel like idiots. That's why, you know?
So we were talking off air, and I told you that I recently learned that in the comic books, as of like 2014, Wanda and Pietro are no longer the adopted children of Magneto, and I am not a fan of that. I was thinking, hell yes, X-Men, like let's go, and I'm still waiting.
See, that's something we totally disagree about. I've never been a big fan of Wanda and Pietro. And like the grand scheme of the Avengers, to me, they're pretty low on I don't know, like yeah, actually it'd be kind of interesting to do this at some point if we did like a tier list of like Avengers characters. Maybe we'll do that one day. I'm gonna write that down in my notes because I think that'd be fun. Tier list of Avengers and probably Justice League. We'll do that at another point too. But if we're going like A tier, S tier, B tier, well, S is top. S tier, A tier, B tier, whatever of Avengers type characters. You got Spider-Man, you got Iron Man, you got Captain America, Thor, Hulk. Those are like the S and A type tier kind of characters. Somebody like a Hawkeye and a Black Widow, they're on like the lower tier underneath them. And you start getting lower and lower. Wanda and Pietro are maybe like D tier for me.
Really?
They're above they're above the characters that you have to actually go on like Wikipedia for. Like I'll just open up a Wikipedia page right now. List of Avengers uh roster or something. I don't know. Avengers members. That's the word I'm trying to think of.
You say roster?
Yeah, it's a wrestling thing stuck in my head again. So like I couldn't even tell you anything about Swordsman. Who's Swordsman? And I don't know anything about Black Knight. So eventually, when we get into the Eternals, I don't know anything about that character, Dane Whitman. I can't tell you anything about Two Gun Kid. Obviously, those are like very, very low. But, Black Panther, so much cooler. He's very high up. Not Iron Man level, but he's pretty high up. He's higher than Wonder Man, for instance. And something like the show like The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I want them to incorporate characters like Patriot and to have I love that they're doing US Agent and everything. Eventually we got to get Quasar in Captain Marvel, but I can't tell you the backstory of Quasar. And Wanda and Pietro are those types of characters where I'm like, if they would have gotten as deep into the MCU as the Infinity War film, and they wouldn't have introduced them, I would have thought that that's weird. But I wasn't clamoring for them to be in the first Avengers. Same with like Wasp. I'm like, you can get around to Wasp a little bit. So,
Do you think that this show changes that though?
how
Does
so?
this show elevate them in the Jesus Christ, in the mind of maybe people who aren't super fans? That like how Guardians of the Galaxy, for example.
Yeah, I
Nobody
had no
fucking knew what the
idea.
fuck Guardians of the Galaxy was. Like,
I had
and
heard
now
very little about like Gamora, and that was basically it.
everybody's like, oh, Star-Lord and Rocket Raccoon, and these are mainstream super. It's like, are they though? And I think Wanda and Vision and Pietro can kind of work their way into that realm.
Yeah, they've upgraded for sure. I've always
For the
liked
record,
Vision better than the other two in particular too.
I just want to say I did almost say, do you think they're elevated in the mind of the casual fan? Because
We're totally stuck on pro wrestling mode. Go to smartguymoment.com if you want pro wrestling stuff, everybody. But yeah, like I look at those characters in that kind of way, but at the same time, I've never liked them as part of the X-Men series. I've always liked them so much better as part of just the Avengers. Because the X-Men franchise to me works best when it's characters that can play into that whole like discrimination kind of angle. So this is a controversial opinion. I don't think Storm should be an X-Men character.
really,
I think she would be so much better outside of the X-Men franchise. And if you
better.
just straight up Avengers, like she's just this. There's the difference between a mutant and a mutate, that kind of thing. Like Spider-Man's a mutate instead of a mutant because he's not born with it.
Right.
Make her somebody who she got her powers through blah blah blah. Because I think she's very regal and she's got way too strong of a power set to be in the X-Men without having to be nerfed all the time. I'd like her to be a type of character that is kind of like the Hulk, where you don't make her one of the core, always in the fight type of characters because she's too strong for that, but she's a big gun.
Right.
And I want her to kind of be their Wonder Woman a little bit too. You know what? I guess I could equate her to like I've always looked at Hulk and Flash as very similar, which sounds ridiculous, but everybody listening, like, hold on for a second. I'll explain. Hulk works better in a team than by himself. When you get a Hulk story and you do like a series, eventually you just have Hulk fights a bunch of other Hulks and it gets boring. And when you do the Flash, you eventually just need to have Flash against other speedsters. And once you've told that story twice, you've told everything you need to tell. I went back in time and Reverse Flash did his thing and we did Flashpoint. Okay, well, after that point, Flash is able to go back in time and he's got the infinite mass punch and all that. Why is Captain Cold a problem? He's a dude with a gun. There's no way he should put up a fight. Just like nobody should put up a fight against Hulk. So if those two are kind of the equivalents, I would say Storm would be like a Martian Manhunter for the Justice League. Kind of like a Swiss Army knife type of thing. I like my X-Men to be Cyclops, Jean, Wolverine, Beast, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Kitty Pryde, uh, obviously like Magneto, Sabretooth, Mystique, those kind of characters. And then all the characters like the Morlocks, where it's just like, I got the ability of suction cups on my eyelids, and you're like, it sucks, like or like Archangel, where you're like, this dude's got wings, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of him.
He's gotten some better stuff, like where they make him, he's got like his bones are different, whatever, they've played around with him. But I always feel like Storm in those scenarios, she always gets the shaft because she's not as cool as Wolverine. And then Cyclops is always the leader of the team, and Jean's always the main girl. So Storm's just sort of there, being like the mom. And she never gets to do anything fun because she's always the one that's like, hey, you shouldn't do that. And you're like, she's cooler than that. Like, she's an awesome character.
Advocating for moms having their own lives.
Yeah, they deserve that glass of wine or whatever it is. So I like Wanda and Pietro better as just two characters in the Avengers, because once you start getting into Magneto's got kids, then you start getting into, well, why is magic a part of the stories about the X-Men? Like, why is the gem of Sidorak something that has to do with Juggernaut? Juggernaut should just be a big dude. Not this whole, it's a
blob.
He's a big dude too. There's a million telepaths, That's something that they should merge. And if you're interested, I have notes on a blueprint.
You don't have, oh my god.
I have an X-Men blueprint. I have notes, and I'll spoil one thing. Psylocke is Jean Grey.
I knew it.
Because you don't need 50 characters with the same powers. So you make Psylocke the code name for Jean Grey, because she never has a good code name. She's just Jean Grey, and she's Marvel Girl and Phoenix. And it's like, why is she Phoenix? She shouldn't be Phoenix until she becomes the Phoenix. So you make her Psylocke because she's got a lock on her psyche, and she's got multiple personality disorder. So all Betsy, Braddock, and whatever are different personalities. And she's got a weapon, whatever.
Stop talking. Make them pay for it. Stop talking.
That's your tease of one character. Like that type of thing is how I approach that. So like, I didn't think it's disappointing if they don't put Magneto in here, because I don't want them to be a part of Magneto. I like the whole high evolutionary angle. But you're looking at that as disappointing because you wanted that specifically. I want the X-Men, but I don't want them to be tied to Magneto. It's a long-winded way of me to say that. It's like a 5-minute diatribe I went on.
I'm ready for the X-Men. I'm ready for like good X-Men films. Like the kids these days, they don't know good X-Men films. They haven't had one.
Yeah, you're like 13 movies deep in this franchise or something. And people will be like, so I'm going to check out the most recent X-Men movie. And you're like, no, don't do that. That was the New Mutants. Oh, well, what's wrong with the New Mutants? Oh, it's the worst out of the worst. Go back and check out number 2 and Days of Future Past. Again, merge. Good elements of some of these movies, but you merge them all together. You make 4 movies out of them, and it ends up being 4 damn good movies.
I just feel like, we're 21 years, well, probably more so 20, but we're getting closer to 21 years since the first X-Men movie release, and people don't know that's what started all this. And like, it was good.
Yeah, I actually really like that first X-Men movie. It's got some flaws, but by and large, it's a pretty damn good movie.
I definitely want the Astonishing X-Men. I definitely want Yellow and Blue.
Uncanny X-Men. It's my
But
vote.
I want them to go full like comic. Let's just do it.
Who's your lineup if you're
How,
hoping for it?
how many people you give me?
Realistically, you probably could have a cast of like maybe 8 main characters from the X-Men side and then villains.
Cyclops, Jean, Logan, Colossus, Kitty, Nightcrawler, Gambit, and Rogue. Villains, obviously Magneto, Mystique, Juggernaut. Uh, Maybe you have like Toad as like a fucking throwaway that people can beat up. You know, put the Blob in there. Like, man, you go with the core because you gotta like get people reintroduced almost. But you do it, you do it right. You do it with the suits. You do everything you got going on, and it'll be good. I just want to see them in a good MCU film.
I think it's crazy that after all the X-Men films we've gotten, we still don't have Avalanche. We've
You
gotten
know what?
multiple characters of some characters that I had never even heard of before. And I think we've gotten like 3 versions of Sunspot. And they're like, nope, no Avalanche. I'm like, really? Avalanche is cool. Do Avalanche. Um, so I didn't like the Pietro thing because they know that they're setting themselves up for people to think that that's X-Men related. And then for it to just be a boner joke, come on, you know?
Boner.
I like that they called him Pietro.
I like that.
Like, that little touch is nice.
I kind of I don't know if you know the whole theory that Paul McCartney is actually dead, but there's a section of people who call Paul McCartney Fall McCartney,
Like
as in like faux
FAUX.
Paul. Yeah, like as in faux Paul.
I
Like it's good.
like that. I was disappointed in that though. I was disappointed that we never got the information of who Jimmy Woo's person is. They just dropped that. That's bad storytelling. That's no like you set yourself up for failure because you were thinking that it was going to be a bigger surprise than it was. They just never resolved that plot line.
Right.
He's like, I'm here to look for this person. Never mind. And like they did that with a couple other things too. Like Darcy in that last episode, she pops up just to run into Hayward. And then they're like, hey, where'd Darcy go? And they're like, she left. Like, so you didn't have anything for Darcy in this episode, you know?
I don't know. I feel like
White Vision. White Vision goes like, hey, I'm Vision. See ya.
I didn't get that. I'll be honest, I did not get that. Like he shows up, they do the cool Ship of Theseus thing. He goes, "No, I can see that you are Vision," and moves on.
I'm glad that they didn't kill off the character again. But if he's Vision now, he should have stuck around and been like, yeah, I'm going to help my wife. Not just, I'm out here.
He does have the memories. I didn't get it.
Yeah. What do you think about the ship paradox?
Just in general,
Yeah. Like, I mean, we're both in agreement. That's awesome that that's how they settled the argument and everything. But do you subscribe to the theory that one is or the other one isn't or whatever?
in terms of him, I don't. I wouldn't say that one is and the other one isn't because if White Vision is the one that actually died, that would make him the true Vision, except the one that we saw throughout the series has the attachment to Wanda. So for this series, he is the real Vision. He is our Vision, you know?
Yeah, that's how I see it. To me, consciousness trumps physicality. So if you were able to like download your memories and put that on a computer and your body passed away, you would be the memories in the computer. And if you put those memories in a different body, then that would be you. You would just be in a different body.
Right.
But if you just took your body and you put somebody else's memories in there, well, you're not you're the other person now because the other person's steering the ship. It's like when you buy a car. If you trade the car in, it's not your car anymore. It used to be, but somebody else takes that car, they buy it, they get the title and the deed and everything, and then that's their car now, you know? So White Vision is just a husk. And once regular Vision puts those memories in him, okay, now he's Vision. He's just got a little bit of, I guess, stage fright, just leaves.
I do think that that would have been a nice way to like end it, where like White Vision shows up and has all the memories, and Wanda can, because this could have theoretically ended like most sitcoms do, and they live happily ever after.
Yeah.
Except we have movies to build.
I would have been very happy with I still would have had, lots of problems with the show and everything, but I would have been really happy with the ending being she goes off and lives in that little cabin by herself, and then when she's drinking the coffee or whatever, White Vision comes down and he's just kinda like, "Hey, you wanna, like, I don't know, make this our new home, have some kids," that kinda thing, like and then you know what? In the grand scheme of the MCU, I'd have been kind of fine if they don't pop up again. And I would have been like, that's a nice enough send off. I want the characters to continually pop up. For that matter, I want like Iron Man to come back to life and everything. So I just give me more of these. But I'd have been cool with that.
No, I agree. I agree. They could have ended happily ever after. Because, so I guess we could talk about the children now, which I thought was weird, even though that is actually how it happened, where she does kind of impregnate herself because she is so powerful, and she has these twins, but they're just like able to age themselves up, and it's like at first it's questioned, and then like the next episode it's just, I don't know, they're just 10. That is what they're that's what they are. I didn't like that too much.
I didn't mind that overall because they would have had to speed through it a little bit. Speed in particular would have.
Eh.
He's got to get old enough to where he could do speed, I guess.
What's wrong with you?
And for a penny and for a pound. Now the character, his backstory in my mind is he grows up and he's got a drug addiction. The little kids, they were good. I don't know if they're gonna bring them back, if they bring the kids back, because I'm kind of assuming that Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is gonna end where she has the kids again. So maybe the kids will come back, but maybe not. I don't know. They're definitely setting up Young Avengers. That's for sure. Because you got Stature in the Ant-Man films. You got Hawkeye. Um, well, I guess you couldn't do that with Monica now because Monica's past that age. But like, they can play into a lot of these. Miss Marvel is coming out,
Shut up.
so she's gonna do that.
You know what? All right, like
Rant
this is
time.
on me. I can't stand. I can't stand it. I don't care that you're a character who writes fan fiction. I don't care if it's relatable. It's
But she's a
dumb.
blogger and she's got a YouTube channel, and doesn't
No,
that make it just so quirky?
no, it doesn't. And maybe that's because I'm 27 and I'm just good with having Peter Parker be Spider-Man. Like that's, listen here. I think I'd draw the line at Miss Marvel, just because like.
Yeah, I don't like the Miss Marvel character either.
Because at any point in time, that entire story can end with, and that's the end of my fan fiction.
Yeah, that's. God, I hope they don't go in that direction.
Am I wrong? Like,
It could though, yeah. But even just the character doesn't do anything for me. Where it's like, really, the only thing that's going on with the character is she's supposed to be relatable. You're like, well, what's her story? She's relatable, isn't she? Because she's this, then this, and this, and this. Okay, but what's like the story? Because look, Spider-Man is my number 2 favorite comic book character of all time, Batman being number one. I can relate more to Spider-Man than Batman, but I like Batman better because it's a more interesting story.
Correct.
And I can't at all relate to Superman with like having those powers, but I'm interested in that story of a character who has those powers. And when you take somebody like a Ms. Marvel and you're like, well, this is for teenage girls that are around like 14 who are from this background and they do this kind of thing and they've got this or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, first off, yeah, that doesn't speak to me because that's not what I am. But even more so, what's the story you're telling me? And if the whole story is, don't you feel like you're being represented? Well, I don't care. Peter Parker could be half Asian and I'm not, and the other half could be I don't know, Hispanic, and it'll be like, okay, I'm neither of those things. Is it the same story? Okay, cool. So he's a kid in the Bronx and he's trying to do this and he's trying to, like that. Not in the Bronx. He's in Queens.
He's in Queens. You're thinking of Miles.
Yeah, I'm
Oh no,
merging the two in
Miles
my
is
my
Brooklyn.
head a little bit here, but
You
uh,
threw out another borough. What is it gonna be a third Spider-Man now?
Staten Island and yeah. So that's where I get into like some problems with that. So a show like WandaVision, where it's just about somebody living a life through their sitcom and going through grief or whatever, I can identify with that, with going through grief and different things. But when you're telling me the story where the nosy neighbor is just the main villain and it's just I'm the same reflection of you, but I'm evil. I've told that a lot of times now, and I really wanted something like Mephisto to just kind of spice things up, and maybe Nightmare or something. Or at the end of the day, it ends up being just a story of like, I know where this is going from the very first episode, and instead of ending that story arc by episode 7, they dragged it out to 9.
I would also throw out there, I don't like that. This is very minor, but I don't like that Agatha wasn't at any point in time old and like worn down, because that's what the character is supposed to be. She's like thousands and thousands of years old.
I thought that they were gonna make her age rapidly.
I thought at least at the end there, you know
Hmm.
how Wanda looked all weathered and all that? You could have at least done that to Agatha.
I will say though, I really liked Catherine Hahn.
Great. Fantastic.
Now we got that meme of her doing the wink and everything too. But she was great with like playing up the Agnes character, even though I'm not a fan of the genre, when she's like, the only way Ralph would understand what our anniversary is if there was a beer called June 2nd. Like that kind of like the delivery, fantastic for that kind of stuff. She was a highlight for this whole thing for sure.
Yeah, I was. Oh, wait. What was her husband's name?
Ralph.
Boner?
Ralph Bohner.
I just got it.
So it ended up being the type of thing where that's not her husband, it's just the guy's house that she took over.
Just got. There you go, folks. Real time. Real time shit. Because I just picked up on that.
You're like, wait a minute,
Like,
Bruce Wayne is Batman?
holy moly.
Bruce Willis was dead the whole time? Yeah, that's like, you're setting up Ralph. You're setting up, she's like, she's got this husband and whatever, and it's like, no, she doesn't. It's actually just a neighbor. Crap. She could have been married to the devil. Could have been Mephisto. That would have been fun,
Yeah.
I liked Agnes, though, outside of her just becoming a stereotypical villain at the end and not having more nuance. Another
Yeah.
character that I liked, but I think that she didn't have as much to do as I was hoping, was Monica.
Agreed.
Huge fan of the part where they were showing her blip back from the whole Infinity War. Love that they did that. And they're like, she wakes up and she's just like, "Where's my mom?" And they're like, "That was 5 years ago," like that kind of thing. Huge fan of that. I really like Tiana Paris in the role. Didn't like how she got her powers, and then at the end, it's just sort of like, let me just go in front of the kids, and I can do this now, and whatever. Then I guess I'm just gonna go, not really contribute much to this.
Well, what do you think they do with her in the future?
Well, that you saw the
The end
credit
credits? Yes.
sequence, yeah, where the scroll is like, there's a friend of your mom's, and he wants to meet with you up in space. I'm assuming that that's Nick Fury, and that this is going to tie into Captain Marvel too.
Yeah.
So it'll be like he's up in space, he's doing the sword thing. Monica's going to be one of like the primary agents of Sword, and it kind of seems a little bit like the more that they keep hitting at Captain Marvel stuff, the more that Captain Marvel's not looked at as a very positive character. Like, she didn't seem too happy about Captain Marvel. I forget what Jimmy says. Jimmy's pointing out like, oh, Captain Marvel could have taken Thanos, and she's just sort of like dismissive of it, you know?
Right. What do you think about the idea of making her Captain Marvel?
Yeah, because she is in the comics for a little bit.
Because
She's Spectrum
I
and
saw a lot of
Photon and
people
Captain Marvel.
very into that idea.
I still want Carol to be Captain Marvel, and I want Monica to be Spectrum, or maybe Photon, depending on how they do it. But I want to see like her teaming up with Carol in the movie and kind of do like, not like a buddy cop type thing, but sort of like, because that's stuff too. Because Captain Marvel sucks. Like, the movie is not good, and that's because they set up this whole thing of you're using too much of your emotions, and it's like she doesn't emote in the entire movie. What are you talking about? You're flipping off. No, she's not. She's barely blinking. Just
You
poorly
woman,
done.
you're being emotional, you woman.
Like,
No,
it's like if she would have been emotional, then they could have done the whole like actually telling a story about how women are suppressing their emotions and everything. But she ended up playing it like she was this cold, emotionless person that they're always saying she's got all these emotions. And I'm like, you're just not playing it right. It's poor directing. But the sequel to that, I have no idea where they're going with this, because the scrolls are good, and what do you do? Like, they were supposed to get Secret Invasion at some point. I guess they just turn all bad. That sucks.
we'll see. Maybe it's a swerve. I'm gonna just use it.
The
Like
wrestling term.
maybe Captain Marvel might not be the most positive.
Like, what? She's gonna be a bitch. Like that kind of
Yeah, like maybe it's like, hey, you know what? You're not the Captain Marvel we need. This person's Captain Marvel
Yeah.
now.
Well, I mean, they could say like, "What the fuck have you been these past decades?" Like, we got attacked in New York. We had Ultron. You couldn't have popped up. Oh, you're fighting on other planets. What about your own home planet? Come on, Carol.
Yeah, you loser.
So I don't know. Maybe they'll address that in there. I'm assuming Monica's a part of that for sure. Um, I don't know about Vision. I don't know if he's gonna pop up in the Doctor Strange one.
He
Uh,
should.
Wanda, of course, is definitely going to be in there. Jimmy Woo, I'm assuming, is going to show up in Ant-Man. Darcy's probably going to pop up in Thor. Maybe not, though. He doesn't have to. And I'm not expecting more, of like the commercial man or something. Like, going forward, Dennis the mailman just keeps popping up. Don't shoot me. I'm just the
I'm
messenger.
just a messenger.
I like that guy. He's cool.
I I liked the people waking up and being like, please just fucking end this. We just want to be okay and be with our families. We can feel your pain. This is torture. Like, I liked the morality issues as plain as day as they were. I thought that was good. Like, because everybody does deal with grief in very fucked up ways. And honestly, like maybe this show is helping some 12-year-old kid deal with grief. And it's like we don't think about things from that perspective because we're so much older now, but who the hell knows who's watching this and how this is affecting them?
Obviously, if that is the case, then that's always positive if that is helping people out. But um, I don't I don't think that this will help a lot of people with grief. Looking at the way that Wanda handled it, because that's a really poor way of being like my issues matter more than yours. You're all in control, kind of a thing. But at least they turned her somewhat good at the end, like that. Although I don't know, where do you think they're going with the whole idea of her studying the Darkhold? Because that's not a good thing to do, you know.
I think she knows that she has the power to do a lot of damage, and they'll tease the idea of her being a villain, but they won't go all the way with it.
Who do you think is going to be the villain of Multiverse?
That could be Mephisto. They didn't set it up yet, but you never know. I think that's where we get Agatha again. I don't,
Yeah,
because going into the multiverse is the only way you can get something like a Westview popping back up. It's like, all right, bitch, I need you now. Let's go.
yeah, they set that up for sure about her saying like you're going to need me, and she's like, well, I'll know where to find you. So I'm looking forward to seeing her come back.
Yeah, bitch.
Yeah. Oh, hiya, hon. What other standout things we have here? I'm trying to think about like
Fucking Voodoo Child played in that one episode. I popped so big for Voodoo Child. Like, this is it's such a good song.
one thing I didn't talk about. I really liked the Modern Family stuff that they did. They
It was
nailed
funny.
that. Like, she's full blown Julie Bowen in those scenes. Great job for Elizabeth Olsen on those.
I thought every parody they did well. Like, I enjoyed the intro that was a parody of Mary Tyler Moore, and I thought the Malcolm in the Middle stuff was good, even though like maybe I don't know how well seen that show is now, but like I thought that was fun.
They
I
did
don't
a good
think they.
job giving that feel too.
I
Just the way
get,
that like the kids were like walking down the steps and like, so mom was telling us about whatever and like that kind of thing.
and then they did it was a lot of Modern Family, but for the intro, it was basically The Office.
Yeah.
I thought that was good. Um, yeah, I like the little stuff like that. Let's see what else was there. The Halloween episode was fun. I enjoy seeing Scarlet Witch and Vision in their old costumes.
Very comic book accurate. So if anybody goes, you gotta always do it exactly how it is in the comics. No, you gotta update it. You can't have them literally in spandex.
Although I want my X-Men in spandex. I mean, you could update it, but like let's see what we can do here.
After 21 years, you want the what did you expect? Yellow spandex to actually be
Yeah,
real.
yeah. No, I want the yellow spandex.
I like that more tactical, like the way that like the Spider-Man outfit looks and the way that like Captain America was like the kind of padded sort of thing. I like that a lot better.
I just don't want like the all black, you
Yeah.
know.
You got to give them some flair. Like Cyclops should have the X-Men logo on him and everything too.
Um, but yeah, all in all, this was a thumbs up. You know, like but again, for me, this is just like a massive break. For context, I was using this show as like, all right, I'm not going to focus on work anymore. Just going to, shut my brain off and WandaVision. And this show was perfect for that.
I put a little bit too much stock into it because we've been on a drought. So I was just like, just give me more MCU. And I was disappointed that this is what we got out of that. I think that if they would have put Falcon and Winter Soldier first, I mean, it might not play out that way, but I kind of feel like I'm gonna like that one better. And if maybe that came first and then we went over to this, I'd be like, all right, well, at least it's a change of pace, and because I don't think that this was supposed to be the first one. I think Falcon Winter Soldier was supposed to be the first one,
It was.
but then again, we would have already had seen Black Widow by then, so maybe there's a reason why. But that it's supposed to come out in like 2 weeks or something, so we still haven't seen Black Widow. I don't know what they're doing with this. I mean, they're clearly trying to push Black Widow off because they want it in theaters, but at a certain point, you can't just keep pushing things off. You got to put it somewhere. It's
So you
another
just
discussion for
said
another
that
day.
you were feeling a drought. You're not in any way burned out on the MCU
Nah.
because they've announced a lot of shit, and you're just like still like, yep, give it to me.
If we start seeing more of this, where I watch 9 episodes 9 weeks in a row, and I feel like I didn't get 9 episodes worth of sitting down and watching it, then I'm gonna get burnt out. Because I didn't check out everything. I didn't watch Runaways. I didn't see the last season, maybe the last two of Agents of Shield. I don't remember which. The last one that I saw of Agents of Shield, it ended with Coulson dying. So I don't remember if that was the second to last season or what.
So I didn't get too far in Agents of Shield. I think I watched like the first season. I never saw Cloak and Dagger,
I
and
watched
I
one
never saw
episode.
Runaway.
Those
Oh,
things threw me off because they were like, they're supposed to be connected, but then you could very easily tell that they weren't.
how I don't know. They were on a lot of different platforms, and after a while, as lazy as it sounds, something like that is a massive disconnect for me.
And shows like Iron Fist just weren't good.
Right?
Like Daredevil was great.
Wasn't there a whole running joke about like how fans of Iron? Who's the guy that they were tweeting that?
Danny Rand?
Yeah, he was like, yeah, there's lots of fans of Daredevil and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
Nothing. I'm
Yeah, Kevin Feige was like, I think somebody had asked him, like, are you going to just disavow those series? And he said something like, well, I think that there's fans of Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Luke Cage that would disagree with you or something. And it was like, you didn't mention Iron Fist.
and like,
He'd be like, and that's exactly what I said, you know? But like the first season Punisher had like some great stuff on it, you know?
very good.
It's just, there is a certain level of oversaturation, but with the movies in particular, if my least favorite of the movies is Thor the Dark World or Doctor Strange or Captain Marvel, it's one of those three. Forgetting which one I actually said was my least favorite. I think it might have been Thor. Um, if those are my least favorite ones, they're still better than a lot of other movies. Like I could still pop in Thor Dark World and watch it, and enjoy it. It's just nowhere near as good as like Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I think we're doing the Bond thing again, and it kind of comes down to stuff like that where Spy Who Loved Me is good. It doesn't mean I'll like pop it in and watch it. Just like for me, you know, Spider-Man: Homecoming, great film. I don't know if I'll ever fucking sit down and watch Doctor Strange on just a whim, you know?
Yeah. Like I can't see myself revisiting WandaVision ever again.
Man, I know people who have literally spent so much money on every single pop figure, every single button and pin that they released for the show. Like, people spent money on this franchise, don't they?
There's people that like Betty Boop.
There's probably some crossover there.
There's a crossover between that, the people that really like I Love Lucy, the people that get tattoos of Marilyn Monroe. Uh,
She's an icon, Tony.
Yeah, not my thing. But I liked that they did something different. I just wish that they would have done it better. Maybe it's the showrunner's fault more than anything. Maybe it's Matt Shackman. Wait, what else has he done? Let's see. Maybe I've seen something else that he's done that I could be like, oh, well, that was so much better. Or like, no, okay, that makes sense. So he doesn't look like he's been a showrunner of anything really in particular. He was a supervising producer and co-producer and executive producer and everything for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I love that series. So he got that going on for him really well.
For how many episodes?
Supervising producer for 25, 17 episodes as co-executive, 15 for producer, and 10 for executive producer.
Huh.
He's been a part of that from 2008 up until 2017, it looks like. He's probably been a
That's
part
not,
of like some of my favorite episodes.
that's not bad. Pretty good.
And he's directed a couple episodes of some things here and there. He directed 43 episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. If he did that, then I mean, come on, that's great. He did an episode of The Boys, which I think is great.
So he's got the chops. There's
Yeah.
just a disconnect for you.
And part of it's the whole genre type thing, but a good part of it is just I felt underwhelmed. I felt like this could have been a 2.5 hour movie, and I would have been like, it was all right for a one shot type of thing, but let's not do a sequel. And I'm hoping that there's not a sequel to this. I don't think that they can get
Well,
away with it, really.
I want there to be some type of follow up because if not, then I would have preferred they just end up happily ever after.
Yeah, I mean, the follow up will be Multiverse of Madness, but I don't want like season 2 of WandaVision. That's what I mean.
Yeah, they kind of said we're not getting it.
Whereas something like Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think that there's, depending on what the story is, I think that there's a chance that you could do a sequel to that. I don't think you could do a sequel to WandaVision because what are you gonna do? You're just gonna pick some more TV shows and just she does the same thing again.
Well, that's what I kind of said. Like, well, she can't keep doing this
And she just becomes like, okay, this one's married with children, and this one is
unless you go a different route with it and you go through different shows. Like, all right, this season it's just gonna be 24. All
like
right.
it's not all sitcoms. It ends up being
Yeah, like
uh
now it's House and they're in the fucking hospital.
Seinfeld for one, and then it's all animated, and it's
The Simpsons.
something like an anime, you know.
I mean, like, if they didn't take themselves so seriously, that's a place they could go with it. But it's probably better that they take themselves seriously.
Yeah, I'll always vote for serious with a little bit of humor rather than isn't this quirky. That's probably why
I
I
hate
want like
quirky.
Ms. Marvel. But
I hate quirky for the sake of quirky. I think
yeah,
that is a trait of the people of today, and I'm not a fan.
fully agreed. So
This is a very like free flowing, all over the place
yeah,
chat.
it is. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. I don't have any other things I can think of to talk about. Is there any other kind of elements you want to pick apart or anything?
Um, well, when we talk about Bond, we talk about music. Did you like any of the music here? Like, did you enjoy? I mentioned Voodoo Child. They had the Monkeys, Daydream Believer, which I thought was a great use of that song. What other songs did they use?
I hate that one of the things that's been stuck in my head is one division because I'm like
One Division.
I don't like it, but it's stuck in my head.
Yeah, that's me with the Agatha all along. It's like, oh fuck, here it is. It's not leaving. I do think, yeah, but Monkeys, Daydream Believer, great song. Voodoo Child, great song. I can't right now think of anything else that they used, but when it called for it, they nailed the eras, even though Tony doesn't like yakety yak.
Not at all.
Yeah. Yeah, fun
So
times.
I give it more of a thumbs down than a thumbs up.
I'm giving it a solid thumbs up.
Well, then you guys have to break the tie in the comments below. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle, and then we still have a tie. Maybe if that's the
I
case.
I do think it comes down to like different levels of interest. Like I think when it comes to the MCU, you're far more invested than I am. So I'm kind of just like, yeah, this is fun, and you're just like, but you're ruining this.
Yeah.
It could be more. Like, and we do that a lot of times around the Smart Guy Moment stuff where I'm like, I'll get really sideways about something, and you're just like, I liked it.
Yeah. And like, if you want more of that kind of stuff, you'll listen to that Review to a Kill series because I'll be like, the gun barrel doesn't look right, and other people will be like, who cares? And I'm like, I care. Like,
Yeah,
kinda like-
literally, and you'll hear this as they start to roll out. In like the past 4 episodes we recorded, Tony's been like, I didn't like the music, and Callum and I will go, I didn't really strike us at all whatsoever.
you're like, I didn't even hear the music, and I'm like, the part where it's like da 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 da. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fully invested into the MCU. Where when they do little things that bug me, I can let it go. But when they do big things that bug me, like the Mandarin twist, then I'm just like, fuck you, middle fingers to the end of time, kind of a thing. Or like, I like when they do something really good too. Like I really like that Tony Stark is the one that created Ultron. I think that that's significantly better than Hank Pym being a part of that. And then I go, you know what? That should be the continuity going forward and everything. MCU is like perfect. And then Captain Marvel comes out. I'm like, ah, crap, it's not perfect. And then, this is one of those downward slope ones where you figure the last couple of movies that we had seen were like Endgame was just phenomenal. You got Cap wielding Mjolnir. Like, how can I not just be all giddy in my seat? If I'm gonna have to get a WandaVision to get that, I'll take the hit, you know. But like you said, so if there's gonna be like an oversaturation, if at some point when we watch Falcon and Winter Soldier and when Loki comes out, and if Black Widow's not all that great, and the Hawkeye show and She-Hulk and Secret War and whatever, I don't know, Secret Invasion and Armor Wars, merging them together there. Uh, if I start realizing that like the Disney Plus shows are not all that great, it's gonna be harder to watch them. But I'm gonna watch every single one of them, of course.
Yeah, like for my side of things, even though I've always considered myself overall more, I want to say pro Marvel. I've realized lately that I'm very DC, and I'm very like, talk to me when the Batman comes out and see if I'm not like sideways about
Yeah,
everything because it's not animated, and I'm just like, oh, he could have done it better if it was animated.
yeah.
Dicks, like,
Yeah. So that's Marvel's WandaVision. 2 weeks from now or so, I think it's the start of Falcon and Winter Soldier. So we'll probably do like a first impressions thing for that too, and kind of like that idea. Do the first impressions after the first episode. Do a full season breakdown afterward. I think that works.
I think that works too. I want them to release What If, because yes, animation, yes, random, what if this happened, what if that happened? It's right up my alley, so I'm hoping we get that before the summer.
I want them to have like a compilation episode of very quick ones that they didn't want to make a full thing.
See, they
Where
did that with this thing called Pixar Popcorn. I didn't like it. I don't want
yeah,
Pixar Popcorn.
that I didn't like because that was just we don't even want to have the voice cast. We'll just have Buzz Lightyear doing some jumping jacks. I didn't see the point in
Oh,
that.
so lazy. Ugh.
But I want to see like you can get a full episode of like the Marvel zombies. I don't think you can get a full episode out of what if Tony Stark didn't build that with a box of scraps and box of scraps guy did. then it's like you can't get 20 minutes out of that. But I just want like a 2-minute thing where it's box of scraps guys like woo I'm Iron Man, like that kind of thing. Where like what if say like the food changes to a different food in a certain scene, you know? Just like play around with some weird ideas like that and give us like a 10-second clip of something else.
Yeah, I'm very much all for that.
That's stuff to look forward to. There's plenty of other things coming your way from fanboysanonymous.com. That's going to be on the Marvel stuff, on the DC stuff. Eventually, Zack Snyder's Justice League is going to come out
Oh, that's coming out like soon,
pretty
isn't
soon, I think, somewhere in March or April. And when that comes out, that'll be a 4-hour immediately sit down and watch that thing and have a whole lot of stuff about that. And, you
Can I
know,
convince you to watch it, like, full on watch it, but and give your first reactions as it happens, or would you wanna, like, analyze?
I'm about 50-50 on that. Part of me thinks a 4-hour, like, immediate fan tracks would be kind of fun to just be like, okay, so they did this differently. Oh, okay, that's whatever. But then another part of me thinks I'd probably be staring at the screen so much and not talking that when anybody's listening, they'll just be like, this is boring. I'm just, this guy's not even talking yet.
Tony, we need content for a couple movies. You can't just, like, get away and everything.
I went through all my notes, did all this kind of stuff. Plug wise, though, other things that we have going on. I mentioned before, if you were listening to us doing our pro wrestling stuff here and there, go to smarkoutmoment.com and you'll hear us talk plenty of stuff about pro wrestling.
Yeah, where we can actually say things like swerve and going over and heal.
Yeah, like the dusty finish that happened with this, and you know, it was just some outside interference instead of being like, oh, Monica came in, and that kind
Runes are kind of like a cash in that you don't see coming, like
of
they're just there.
Why don't people just do that all the time then? How come like Doctor Strange doesn't just set that up across the entire world and just keep it there and just make it to where it's like invisible so nobody sees it. And then that way nobody on Earth can ever do anything except for him. There you go. Haha.
Because then
Yeah.
he's OP. You can't do that.
He already is OP.
Eh. Dormammu, I've come to bargain, is one of my favorite bits in the MCU.
That is great, yeah. So yeah, check out what's happening there. Check out the Review to Kill podcast. Check out whatever I've got going on at Tony Mango. Check out what Rob's got going on at Dude Felice.
Yeah, you can check out what I've got going on over at Fightful.com and WrestleZone.com. I would love to do more with fanboys and like maybe when we figure out what they're doing with E3, talk some video games. So like stay tuned because that's all coming in the future.
And if you definitely want to make sure that we do more, hit up the Patreon. Even $1 a month can go a long way, even just on the morale side of things. Because the more people that donate $1, the more I'm like, oh, okay, you do like us. So then keep that in mind. There's also the Pick Your Poison tier where you can request something. So if you really, really want us to do some kind of a fan tracks for a movie, or you really want us to talk about something and do like a group meeting thing or whatever it might be, then toss that idea our way. And once you sponsor it, then, we'll do it. That's kind of the point. And whatever is happening next, as long as you're subscribed to the channel and you ring that little notification bell, you'll be aware of when the next video gets posted. But if you check smartcatmoment.com and fanboysanonymous.com, we do things outside of the podcasts. So, we've got articles that are up that have no podcast related thing. And one of the things that's going to be coming up soon is video game related. We did the Pokemon mock draft, and we're going to have a bonus features where we're going to battle it out. We're going to see who's the very best. So that's a video game thing if you're interested in that. I got some ending Marvel stuff that I'm thinking about writing up here and there whenever I get a chance, where it's like, how would I end this character from the Marvel universe? What would it be like, how I would wrap up Tony Stark's story, or how would I wrap up the Peter Parker story, or some different things. So I don't know. Toss some ideas my way. I'll work them in there somewhere. And until the next time that we see you, hopefully you had a great day. Hopefully you're staying safe. And that's it. It's time for us to geek out.